YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL offseason moves that I think could or should happen. Cuts, trades, what I think teams should do. We're going to try to fix their cap situation, see what they could be working with going into free agency, which starts in under a month. So can't wait for that. Follow our Twitter. There's a link in the description for that. Lots of draft and NFL talk daily on there. Check out our new Instagram. Lots of cool stuff on there too. And check out our merch. Link in the description for that. Lots of cool stuff there. And our subscriber goal is 20K subscribers. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, it'd be much appreciated if you click that button and subscribe. We got plenty of free agency talk, predictions, NFL draft stuff, mock drafts, player evaluations. In season, we have predictions. Always talking football and sports. So be much appreciated if you can subscribe to us and clicking the like button. We much appreciated. So this is the second video of this I'm doing. I'm going division by division. We're going to do every team eventually. I did the AFC West. Now I want to do the NFC North because Joe Flacco was just traded. I want to talk about the Ravens a little bit, see what their cap situation is like, what it could be like, and the whole Antonio Brown trade possibilities. So that's why I want to go with this division next. I'm using this website, which makes it very easy for me here, helps me out a lot with the exact numbers. It's spotrac.com, link in the description. Very useful site those guys made over there. So looking at the Ravens first, as we can see, after they cut Flacco, or traded Flacco, excuse me, it cut the cap down, so brought it up to $48.7 million. So good cap space for a team that was just in the playoffs, had a very good defense, only had a rookie quarterback, just traded their backup quarterback who was their starter for so long. So it's a pretty good cap situation already. Don't know if they do have some free agents to get back. Darius Smith's the one that stands out the most. Or besides C.J. Mosley. I expect Mosley back, though. You know, not a big market for middle linebackers. Teams kind of, unless they have a giant hole there, they kind of want to keep their same guy that knows their defense a lot. So you don't see them shuffling, the middle linebackers shuffling around too much. C.J. Mosley is definitely an elite one. They can get him back pretty easily. I think they should be able to. It would be ridiculous if they didn't. Darius Smith, can they use the franchise tag on him? Can they pay him? They have the cap space to do it. They want to keep some of those defensive guys together because that defense was damn good. It was either the best, it was probably the second best defense in the NFL and all of football. Right there with the Bears. Love their blitzes. Very fun to watch. So as soon as Lamar Jackson gets going, teams should be getting better and better. They do need some receivers, though. I'll tell you that. They need to re-sign some of their defense guys, but they do need some wide receivers pretty badly. But they're at over $48 million cap, so that's pretty darn good. Right off the bat, you know what I would do. I don't think you can trade Crabtree. You know, maybe for a late round pick, but I think you can cut him. I think it's a guy that you definitely can cut. He hasn't really been playing to maybe any of the hype that he's gotten in the past. $53 million cap leaves you plenty of space to get Mosley back and Darius Smith. Go sign some other guys. Yeah, I think that's a move that should be made. Eric Weddle, you know, there's been some talk. You know, maybe he'll go elsewhere. Could he be traded? I don't know if I don't see them cutting Weddle. Could he be traded? I think it's possible. I see him on the team next year. I mean, if they were to somehow get rid of his contract, it would go up to $59 million. I just see him on the team. I don't know. That's just me. I see him there. Any other guys here? You're looking at the list. They don't pay a lot of money here, and that's good. They got some good rotation guys, good guys that, I mean, Lamar Jackson was just a rookie last year. Guys, Judon doesn't get paid that much there. You got a lot of defensive depth here, and, you know, well-spent money there in the offseason, each offseason. But got quite a few running backs they can probably move on from. Kenneth Dixon, I believe they would like to keep. Some of those running backs just kind of stop playing, you know, as soon as they got some free agents, actually. Some of these guys are just free agents. So I don't know if they re-sign those guys. You know, you see how it changed. You know, they had Alex Collins in there and Buck Allen, and as soon as Lamar Jackson comes in, it's a totally different offense, totally different feel, totally different fit. Some other guys play over those guys. So I think they draft one to compete with Gus Edwards for the starting job. Maybe Dixon's used more. Maybe he competes too. I don't know if too many moves are made. They have plenty of corners, but I think they would like to keep their corner depth. I think that's very important. You know, I think Marlon Humphrey was probably their best one last year. I still think very highly of Jimmy Smith, but maybe they don't like that they're paying him that much money, so maybe they try to trade him. Who's looking for a corner? Teams are always looking for a corner. The Chiefs, what could you trade him for? I think he's very good. I think you'd get a second rounder out of him. I don't know if anybody's going to give up a first. I think he's a very good corner. I think most likely ends up on the team. But I think you could trade him to a desperate team for corners. I mean, if you're able to trade away that money, you get up to 62. They have plenty of cap. They do need to get some guys back. But I think, obviously that's unlikely. I think, I'm predicting they'll have somewhere around there going into free agency. I don't know if they'll bring in a whole bunch of big-name outsiders. I think it's the big-name guys that are free agents for them, so we'll see. I think it's a must to get Za'Darius Smith back. And Mosley's a 100% must. We'll see what they do at Weddle. And if they lose Za'Darius Smith, anybody else they can get. There's a lot of guys that can fit that spot. Ziggy Ansah is going to cost a little more money. I think I'd rather have Smith. I think Ansah scares me a little bit. So Frank Clark, I think he's mainly a DM, but I think he can fit either defense. But he might get franchise tagged. He's going to cost more money than Smith, which you have the cap. But I think you just bring back your own defense guys because you had a top defense last year, and that was just the first-year defense coordinator there for the Ravens. So bring back your guys. Good job trading Flacco for the 4th-round pick. You cut the cap space, and you didn't need them. They do need a backup quarterback probably here, but they'll be okay. They'll be all right. So good moves for the Ravens, expecting somewhere around that $50 million cap room going into free agency. See if any more trades come their way. We'll take a look at the Bengals next. AFC North here. We're going to get through all the divisions eventually. Andy Dalton's the big question. I think they end up rolling with Andy Dalton still. I think it happens. What's his trade value? That's a tough one. I don't know if anybody wants to pay him. I think I think teams, since the draft class isn't so great, I think teams will be willing to give up a 3rd rounder for him, maybe a 4th rounder. I don't think the Bengals trade him though for where they're picking. If they're picking a little higher, they'd be a little confident on maybe getting a Haskins or a Drew Lock. I don't know if they want to trade up. Maybe they do, but I think they keep Dalton. If they do, they're at $47 million right now. If they do get rid of him, it bumps it up pretty good amount, $63 million. But you're creating a very important hole there in the offense. So I mean, Dalton, it's not like he's been bad or anything. I think he can still play. Don't think it happens there. I think Kirkpatrick could be a guy that's out here. A lot of money. He can play still, but a lot of money for him. $54 million. They pretty much need to revamp this defense. They did a very good job drafting last year. So they can trust the draft process here. That is the problem with Dalton. So I think you could trade him because your defense is in a rebuild stage. You could get a young quarterback to build up with the rest of the pieces here. I think Kyler Murray could actually work on the Bengals. So, they may have to trade up for him. We'll see. But it's a tough situation with Dalton. You got to be confident what you're going to get here if you're going to trade before the draft. So I think most likely Dalton's out. I think they're going to revamp this defense, though. Or Dalton's in, I should say. Kirkpatrick's out. I think they'll revamp this defense. Dunlap should stay. One of their better. He does get paid a lot. One of their better defensive guys. I think Burfict could be out. Bumps up to $59 million. John Ross, really, they're not going to cut him because he's too young. Was a first-round pick. No way they cut him. But just saw his name and wanted to mention that he needs to step up. Really, kind of expect more from him. I like William Jackson a lot. He's their future. He's their number 1 corner. He's the future. Billy Price, didn't really live up the hype yet. Hopefully he can start to pick it up. I like Jesse Bates though. That was a great draft pick. Some of these other guys, a lot of young defensive players here. Billings hasn't really done. Could they cut Billings? That brings up to $60 million. I don't know if they cut Billings. Not really worth the cut there. Some of these young defensive players could step up. It's really not worth cutting guys down this list though. But I think Kirkpatrick, Burfict could be out. Don't think you can get anything for Burfict. I think you can still play. Don't think you can trade him. Kirkpatrick, maybe you can trade for a late round pick due to his contract. Nick Vigil, could you cut him? Bump it up. I don't know if it's really worth it. He's actually played solid at times. Alex Erickson bumps it up a little more. Gets paid more than Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, much better. So I think they have some cuts to do. I think it's going to be really interesting what happens with Andy Dalton. I think if you can trade him and you want to go to this rebuild, you just brought the new coach in. You have a solid rebuild going on the defensive side with a great draft last year and some other young pieces like William Jackson. So that it's kind of weird when one side of the ball is being rebuilt and the other side's like really not. There's some young talent on offense, don't get me wrong, but it's like part of it's like win now and part of it's for the future. It's kind of weird. So if they can get their hands on Kyler Murray, maybe they want him to learn from. They have plenty of cap to keep Andy Dalton. So if they get their hands on a guy like that, you have the cap. You can go out and get some defensive players here, maybe to speed up the process, help it win now. You need linebackers. You need another guy next to Geno Atkins. Could use another DB. You do have some young ones that are pretty solid. So we'll see here. But pretty good cap situation here. I expect him to cut. I think Drake Kirkpatrick and Burfict are, solid options to cut here. Not a whole bunch of guaranteed money. You can really raise the cap space. Can you trade them? It's a possibility. But I liked what they did drafting last year. Let's see if they can, do it again. Keep building it up. The Browns, speaking of building up, did a very good job over the years building this team. Not a whole bunch of needs. They could get better in some spots, but it's going to get better even without getting anybody because those guys are going to continue to get better. Lots of young talent in Cleveland. There's $74 million cap too. Just got Kareem Hunt for cheap. He's going to be suspended. You don't really need that much. I think you can use another D tackle. Could use another DB. Could use offensive lineman. Could use another receiver. Not must. It's not a need. Needed another one of those guys. You could use those guys. They're heading in the right direction. The Jamie Collins situation with him, I heard he could be cut. Let's see what happens when we cut him. Goes to $83 million. I don't know if they cut him. I think they could look for a trade partner. Day 3 pick possibly. I think it's trade or keep. I don't know if it's really worth cutting because he can still play at a solid level there. I don't know if it's really necessary to cut him. Some of these DBs, I like these DBs. I was a little concerned about the Demarius Randall trade, but he played pretty well. TJ Carey was very solid this year. Yeah, I don't think any of these guys really cut. They got young talent. Darren Fells possibly. So it's not really necessary. I think the Browns are in a great situation. I don't think too much needs to be done here. And they're not afraid to go get guys like Kareem Hunt. So, they have Antonio Callaway too. And they could use another receiver. Maybe they go for a Golden Tate in free agency. They have some good young ones, but you could get better. You can't be afraid to get better in spots like that. D tackles, they have good young ones. They could have done a better job stopping the run. They could make that defensive line turn elite because you do have a guy like Myles Garrett up there that is going to be elite. So could go out, get guys like that. Maybe you go get a Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle. He just came from the Vikings. Maybe you go get guys like that. Maybe you just trust the process in the draft like you've been doing. I'm a fan of building through the draft. So I think it's a strong possibility they can do that. They'll go out and get some good talented guys. So they're not going to be huge spenders because they know what they can do through the draft. They won a lot of games because of what they did. So not a lot of moves here for the Browns. But we're going on to the Steelers. So the first thing to do for the Steelers is to trade Antonio Brown because this is what's going to happen. Requested a trade. It's unfortunate, and it's tough because it's hard to predict where he'll go, what his worth is. Like I mentioned, we're going to do a bunch of free agency predictions. We're going to show landing spots where the guys are going to go, and we're going to do it for guys that really aren't free agents, like Antonio Brown, guys that are going to be traded, where they can go, where we think they're going to go. So that may be one of the first videos on the board there for us because it's it's a hot topic. But first thing to do here, trade Antonio Brown. Where will he go? We'll predict that in the future. For this video, I'm just going to go ahead and just give him the Niners because everybody seems to be saying. I don't know if he's the number one landing spot. The Niners are the number one landing spot because, we've seen them get rid of Reuben Foster. Didn't hesitate to do that when he was in trouble off the field. Antonio Brown is currently in trouble off the field. So I don't know what's going on with that. So the Niners want to trade for that. They have the cap space for him. What is he worth? The Steelers going to want like a first rounder. He's a first round talent, but he's up there in age, does have the off the field issues.
but still plays at an elite level. I would not trade a first round. Obviously, the Niners aren't going to. They have the second overall pick. They're not trading that first round pick. No chance. But there's rumors about a team maybe like the Packers. They have 2 late first rounders. I wouldn't trade one of those. I'd feel more comfortable with a second rounder. So we'll just say, for the sake of this video, Niners trade a second, maybe a fifth or something like that for Antonio Brown. Again, we'll predict more of that in the future. And $7 million in cap. Not a whole bunch here. It's because there's a lot of dead cap there. If they trade him before March 17th, I believe it is, it's a cap hit of $21.12 million, and after is $23.62 million. He has roster bonuses too. It's tough situation for the Steelers. They got to trade one of their star players, and doesn't really fix the cap issue here. But I think it's doable to fix this cap situation, because you're going to lose Le'Veon Bell. You're going to lose Antonio Brown. So you need some secondary help, some linebacker help. So you have some work to do. You may be looking for the quarterback of the future, too. So you have a little bit of work to do. But the good thing is, I think Joe Hayden actually played pretty solid last year, but he's getting paid too much, and you have to rebuild the secondary anyways, even if you keep him. So I think you might as well cut him. And that brings it up to $7 million in cap, $17 million, from 7 to 17 in cap space. Makes a lot of sense, I think. Another guy, a little bit of a wild card. Bud Dupree hasn't really lived up to the hype. He has slowly gotten better, I think, but I think he can do better, especially in this draft class. Where the NFL's heading. I think you can get a better guy that fits. So I think he's maybe more of a trade guy. I think you can trade him for a late round pick. I think the team would definitely do that, and he would be able to clear some space. He could definitely be on the team still. They just drafted him not too long ago. They still probably believe in him, but look what happens if you get rid of his contract. $10 more million, $27 million in cap space to go do your thing here. So that's very interesting. Some other guys, you could rebuild this. You could rebuild the linebacker unit. I don't know if you can afford to get rid of more linebackers, but you can rebuild it in the draft and free agency. I don't know if that's really worth it there to cut a guy like Vince Williams. But Morgan Burnett just signed him last year, and they can move on from him. I really do. I don't know if I like that signing too much. $30 million, 30 and a half actually. So I think it'll be a pretty solid move. Artie Burns really hasn't lived up to it, but I would imagine if they got rid of him, it would be a trade, something, a pick in return. But if you do get rid of his contract, it's $32 million. I don't think it happens. John Bostic's another guy. He actually played pretty solid last year. Could use some more linebackers. I think they hang on to him. So I think that's pretty much. These guys aren't getting paid too much. A lot of young guys here, so you might as well keep these guys. But I think these guys up here, I think it's a must almost to cut Joe Hayden. They're going to trade Antonio Brown. I think it's a must to cut Joe Hayden. Again, great career, played very solid last year. He gets paid too much money. Cut him. You got to rebuild the secondary anyways. Bud Dupree, I think it's a possibility. We'll see if they actually do it. I could see them hanging on to him. Morgan Burnett cuts. Look at that right there. Saved $3.6 million. I think you should do it. You drafted Edmonds last year for safety. You could use another one. You got to rebuild the secondary anyways. I think you might as well cut these guys, because you're going to need to go out and get another receiver now. You're going to need to go out and get a running back to back up Connor, unless you like Samuels. I think he's more of like a hybrid guy. They weren't really, when Samuels was in, they weren't really running the ball in between the tackles too much, so they weren't really too comfortable. So you may need another guy there, just in case. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but at the same time, I think you can get the cap situation fixed here by cutting some of these guys. I expect them to have over $20 million in cap, because maybe not Bud Dupree. I think you go out and cut Joe Hayden, Morgan Burnett. You trade Antonio Brown. You bring in a draft pick there, hopefully a solid one for their sake. So I think there's no reason why they should be under $20 million in cap, 20 to 30 range. We'll see. Maybe they can trade. I don't think they can trade Joe Hayden. I don't think they can trade Burnett. Maybe they can trade Dupree. What would his value be? It's tough. A lot of money, 5th round, 6th round perhaps, but I think teams may rather go out and get the guy that kind of fits their defense. So we'll see. But that's going to do it for my AFC North to the AFC West. We're going to get, over the next week or two, we're going to get through all the divisions. Also going to have plenty of free agency and potential trade targets there, predictions for all those guys. We have plenty of mock drafts, draft evaluations, lots of fun stuff here in the offseason. So, yeah, that's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. Check out our current videos. But, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Goodbye.